At 4 a.m., 3,200 agents hit 147 doors at once. Blackhawks overhead, armored vehicles on the street. That part you've heard. What you haven't heard is why the cartel thought they'd still be safe. Their designer, Architectto, built 5 reinforced tunnels and a clean airport lane by recruiting people drowning in debt and medical bills. The payoff we'll show you is simple. $480,000 in bribes to open gates that should never open. Keep watching to see the exact switch Sky Harbor workers used to bypass screening and how the raid closed it. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. They moved 2.4 tons a month without ringing a bell. The size alone should have tripped flags, but the pipeline split weight, time, and paperwork, so nothing looked off in any single system. The network ran like a schedule board. 5 reinforced tunnels feeding containers to quiet warehouses, encrypted radios linking crews, a hidden server pushing routes and timing, and a clean path through Phoenix Sky Harbor that slipped cargo past screening under a legitimate exception. Start with the skeleton. The tunnels were not holes, they were built. Concrete walls, lighting every few meters, ventilation fans that vented into disguised utility sheds, narrow-gauge rails with low-profile carts rated for heavy loads. Each tunnel tied to a drop site that looked like a mundane storage space on the US side. Crews staged sealed containers in those rooms hours before a move. Forklifts were already idling. Doors were pre-unlocked. Handling time ran in minutes, not hours. Depth varied to match soil and sensors. In some stretches, they ran shallow enough to keep rail grades gentle, then dove below utility corridors to avoid vibration monitors. Entry points hid under legitimate facilities. One under a produce cold room, another under a scrapyard with constant truck noise. Exits came up into boxed-in pits masked by shipping racks and false flooring. Vent stacks were cut to resemble roof HVAC, with sound baffling to keep fans silent from the street. Comms held it together. Crews used encrypted handhelds talking to repeaters parked in vans that moved nightly. The repeaters sat in quiet alleys, switched on for a window, then gone. Radio etiquette was rigid. Short transmissions, call and response codes, and a rotating channel scheme tied to dates. If someone broke format, the shift paused. Money to keep insiders loyal moved the same way. Shell companies paid consulting hours that mirrored ordinary contractor invoices. Amounts stayed just under thresholds that trigger anti-money laundering checks. On paper, it looked like seasonal staffing. Sky Harbor was the pressure release. The airport has a medical express pathway designed to push time-sensitive shipments through. The operation used that rule set. Cargo handlers swapped a single label on a pallet and scanned it into the medical lane. Surveillance later showed that swap took seconds. Once the system saw medical, the crate bypassed a scanner and went to a truck bay with a shortened audit trail. That truck bay always lined up with a specific supervisor's shift, so anomalies were pre-cleared before they ever looked like anomalies. One case shows how clean it ran. A container tagged for biomedical relief entered on an approved partner route with a manifest that matched an authorized template. There was no secondary inspection because the form hit every field the system expects. The destination was a legitimate address with a receiving history. No one looked twice. So how did federal presence go up while flow went up too? Because failure hit in parallel. Border processing flagged small outliers but missed aggregated totals when weight was chopped across tunnels. Airport logistics saw a valid exception and had no reason to slow a pallet marked urgent. Warehousing used normal vendor IDs, so throughput looked like seasonal spikes. Each layer did its job in a narrow lane, and the total picture vanished in the seams. The crack started with numbers. Medical lane cargo weights drifted heavier on certain nights, yet scanner utilization logs in other bays didn't dip enough to match those reroutes. Someone was moving mass without creating the expected slowdowns. Investigators pulled thread on network traffic and found a storage unit outside Tucson hosting a hidden server. Its outbound bursts lined up with nightly cargo peaks and with tunnel cart timestamps captured during later seizures. That pattern connected drops, label swaps, and truck departures into one system with a clock. If the design looked airtight, why risk it under pressure? Because the money behind those clean lanes promised it would hold. Follow the cash that kept doors propped open. The number that cracked the design wasn't a server log or a tunnel blueprint. It was $480,000 in 3 months, spread thin and landing quiet. That figure didn't show up in a single account. It dripped into lives at Sky Harbor and along the line where the desert meets the fence. Recruiters didn't chase the best performers. They hunted people cornered by bills, a ramp worker juggling 2 jobs and a child's hospital payments, a cargo driver behind on rent, 2 Border Patrol officers stationed at predictable gates, one with a parent's chemo debt, another fighting a divorce and wage garnishment. The pitch sounded like relief. A temporary loan, a consulting side gig, helped to make the month work. That's how the trap sets. The first payout wipes an overdue balance and buys silence. The second ties it to a task, the switch. Miss the switch, lose the money, and face the same creditors you just escaped. Try to talk, and the last text reminds you of the dates, the shift, the camera angles, and the names tied to your phone. What begins as one-time help becomes calendar math. Tuesdays for medical labels, Fridays for the Nogales lane, nights when the scanner team trims coverage for maintenance. Each small action folds into the larger clock and becomes hard to refuse. Money moved through fronts that looked like ordinary logistics support. 2 shell firms filed articles, leased mailboxes, and bought small ads offering throughput consulting. They issued invoices for hourly reviews, route audits, and shift optimization. Payments hit through ACH in amounts that fit normal contractor ranges. Where bank scrutiny tightened, prepaid debit cards carried the load, cards loaded at grocery chains, PINs delivered by a throwaway number, balances drained at ATMs far from work sites. Some bribes passed as staged loan repayments. A signer would sign a backdated note for a few thousand, then repay it monthly to the shell. On paper, debt vanished. In reality, loyalty deepened. At Sky Harbor, the switch lived in a motion every handler already knew. Pull a pallet, peel a label, scan the new code, and the system treats it as medical express. The crate reroutes to a dock that prioritizes speed. That dock sat under a supervisor whose shift aligned with drops. Pre-clear notes appeared minutes before questions could form, closing any loop that might kick the pallet to a secondary bay. The crate left the camera field and hit a truck staged with a legitimate carrier number, flagged for urgent delivery. No alarms, just a shorter paper trail. The border move matched the airport's rhythm. A text with 2 digits matched to a roster list told the officer which gate. The radio ping, a short burst on the nightly channel, confirmed the window. The convoy rolled during a planned scanner maintenance slot that reduced throughput. No override required. The gap was expected, so the absence of an image didn't look like a breach. Across 3 months, about $480,000 flowed to a small circle. Transfers spiked on weeks when tunnels pushed heavier loads toward Phoenix warehouses. That alignment made the cash look like scheduled contractor bills. It took a quiet tell to break it. One handler paid off a credit card and a payday loan in a single week. HR flagged the sudden change and sent a routine earnings check to payroll. The review flagged identical consulting invoices from 2 different shells, same language, same rate, landing 2 days apart. When the hammer fell at 4 a.m., doors opened in one push. Radios and phones went dark before delete scripts could run. Server logs came out warm. Shift rosters matched text codes. The map showed who flipped which switch and when, down to the minute. If debt and silence can buy a clean lane, you push for audits that read patterns, not forms. Demand worker protections that blunt the next loan. Expect real-time checks that cross airport, border, and warehouse logs without waiting for quarterly reviews. More raids will land. The test is simple. Does the next architect find a maintenance gap, or do we close it first?